So you love the startup life, but you think like, starting my own business right now might be too risky. So what alternatives do I have? Well, let's think about buying your own business without using your own money. Coming up now. Hi, I'm Oliver, and thank you for tuning in today into Ask Me Startup, the channel where we talk about startups, small businesses, and the world that surrounds them. So today, how do you buy a company without using your own money? Why would you want to do this? Well, let's assume that you are like very favorable of the startup life, and you maybe are even a very good entrepreneur yourself. You already did 2 or 3 startups, you failed with some, you had some success, but now you know the life can be very risky starting a business from scratch, especially in these times as we are right now, which means things are uncertain. But if you would be able to buy a business that is already profitable since a couple of years, maybe 50 years, you don't know, a multi-generational family business, for instance, that is now actually lacking a successor, how great would it be that you are able to buy it, add value to it, and then sell it for a profit? Sounds good to be true? Not really. Let's look into this. Reality is, many companies are doing great. They're in industries that grow by roughly 3% a year or something like this, and they are constantly creating positive cash flows. But they're run by entrepreneurs that have done this for maybe 20, 30, 40 years and are now in the phase where, they haven't changed much. They have lost the, fire, the motivation to do stuff. Hence, they're now looking to find a successor. If they don't have anyone in the family, then they might be a perfect fit for you. But you want to be very, very strict on which companies you are looking at and why. So you go like, hey, wait a minute, Oliver, what are you talking about? I mean, who would be willing to give me some money to buy a company? Well, reality is this model has been developed in the 1980s and it's called search fund. It is not widely publicly available, and the number of search funds is actually quite limited. There are a lot of them, mainly in the Northern American parts, the USA and Canada, but they are now getting more and more traction all over the world, and I'm talking about Africa, Asia, Europe, and rest of the world. Why is that? Well, reality is people are looking into less risky investments as well. And starting a search fund with very specific criteria and investing into an entrepreneur to have a look out for 2 to 3 years might be the perfect match for some investors. So what do you personally need as an entrepreneur to start a search fund? First, you need a strategy. You need to have a plan, an idea of what industry you're talking about, where you have the biggest and best insights, and what would be the strategy for you to improve the outcome of a company that you're looking to buy. You don't know the company yet, but you should have an idea of what to do in that industry to be better than the rest. Now, this is also the sexy part, because it actually means that you are using your brain, your know-how, and your thrive to boost a potential business. The first step you would have to do now is to find investors. A typical search fund is constructed out of 12 to 18 different investors. You don't want a big investor and then a few small ones, because that might cause some conflicts at the end. Furthermore, you want a big variety of investors as possible, because this whole search fund is not meant that you're doing everything by your own. No. You're the potential CEO of the newly acquired business, but the other people are board members potentially in the future. They should help you with due diligence and with their expertise in other areas that you might not have, or that they're very professionally be able to give you. So the first thing you have to be clear before approaching any investors is, what are the strategy? What value are you able to create? And I'm really serious about the value thing. You should be clear about what would be the potential value for customers, what would be the potential value for investors, what would be the potential value for the guy selling you his or her company. If you're clear on that, and if you're clear on what value you can bring and what would be the value for you, perfect. So what should you now do more specifically? Well, first, think about your strengths and weaknesses. What are you good at, and which industries, 1 or 2 at max, are you good at? Which do you know in depth? Then you want to look at whether or not one of those industries is actually growing by 3% a year or not. That in itself should, de-risk the project, because it already provides a sustainable growth strategy firsthand. Second, you then need to find the proper investors, of course, but with those investors, take a step back and write down the criteria that you're really looking for that a business should fulfill. They need to be profitable for many years, they need to have a positive cash flow for many years, and they should have a running machine that works even without you being on top. Now, the basic idea of the search fund, of course, is that you are becoming the new CEO. As such, you would then be able to help guide the acquired company into a new and better future. But first, you would need to learn the traits of this specific industry or specific niche of the industry your acquired company is in. Okay, now you might be at the stage, wow, that's exactly what I want to do. What are your next ways forward? Well, first of all, sit down and write down, as I said already, what are you good at, what are your strengths and weaknesses. Then decide whether you want to start the search fund yourself or you want to apply to existing search funds. Now be careful, a search fund is only specifically available for one acquisition. It is not for multiple acquisitions, because then it is an investment fund. Nonetheless, there are search funds out there that provide easy access to investors who are familiar with this type of investment. And not too many are out there yet, especially in Europe and or Asia and Africa, that are already invested in such a type of investment vehicle. But this is the perfect way to change the odds into your favor so that the likelihood of success is better than ever before. All right, everybody, if you're interested where you find other search funds available and what are out there already, I'll leave a link down below. You can have a look at those, and I'm looking forward to your comments, and see you next time.